By now, I'm sure you have seen the following viral video. I want to warn you in advance, what you're about to see and hear could be very disturbing. It was incredibly disturbing for me because it made me so fucking angry. It's hard for me to compose myself, but I just wanted to give you that warning before I played it for you all to see, and then we'll have a conversation about it on the other side.
¿Por qué le pegas? Yo estoy grabando.
The man on the ground, handcuffed, being beaten, senseless by allegedly federal agents from Customs and Border Patrol. I want you to remember his name. His name is very important. We're going to talk about him right now. His name is Narciso Barranco, B-A-R-R-A-N-C-O. Narciso is 48 years old. He's a landscaper in Santa Ana, California. He is originally from Mexico. He has 3 sons, all of whom are United States Marines. And for those of you who need a reminder, when you become a Marine, you take an oath to defend the United States. And you take an oath to be able to protect Americans, on domestic soil and internationally. And you do it at great risk of your own life. And so Narciso's 3 sons have done that for us as Americans. And how do we treat Narciso Barranco? Well, we treat him like shit. So as you saw from that video, he's getting just beaten. And what we've learned so far is the following. Narciso is undocumented. If that offends you, then turn this shit off. But it shouldn't offend you. Narciso is undocumented and has lived in Orange County, California since the 1990s. He owns a landscaping business. He has no criminal record. A local paper called the Orange County Register checked and confirmed that Narciso has no prior criminal history. Narciso came to the United States, wanted to have a better life. He is married and he has 3 sons. His oldest son is named Alejandro. Alejandro served in Afghanistan. He has 2 other sons that are active duty. They are currently at Camp Pendleton. Now, Alejandro Barranco has spoken to the media, and Alejandro has shared the following information after having been able to finally locate his father and find out what's going on. His father, Narciso, was in the process of applying for a form of immigration status called parole in place, which can grant family members of active duty military who are without legal status permission to stay in the United States for a while, usually a year, and it can be extended. Now, this is what we have been told by Narciso's family. Alejandro says, quote, "I feel betrayed. My dad has no criminal history. He wasn't doing anything bad. He was just working. The way the federal agents attacked him, I don't think it's right." Now, we also have found out that Narciso was working his job as a landscaper on Saturday at a local IHOP. The local IHOP manager says that he was working his job, and then according to Narciso's son, Alejandro, several armed masked men approached him. Now listen, these masked men were in civilian clothes. So let's take a second here, please. You're doing your job in the freaking hot California sun. You're doing your landscaping job, and several armed masked men in civilian clothes approach you. what would you do? You think you'd just stand there and calmly say, hey, what's going on? Can I offer you a cold drink? Of course, you are going to get freaked out, especially after everything that's been going on. Of course, you're going to get freaked out. So Alejandro says that his father, Narciso, said that as the men walked toward him, his natural human reaction was to run to his truck to grab his ID. So listen, I'm not going to bullshit you, right? Narciso is undocumented, but he sees these armed, masked men in civilian clothes approaching him, so he naturally gets nervous and runs. And there's other video on social media that shows him being chased by federal agents. And listen, Narciso is actually still holding his weed whacker from his fucking job when he's being chased by federal agents. Narciso was punched in the face multiple times by at least one agent, pepper sprayed at a close distance. Again, this is according to Narciso himself. His shoulder may be dislocated, but the family cannot confirm that Narciso has received any type of medical treatment while he's being held in detention. Narciso was born in Morelia, Mexico, moved to Orange County in the 90s. He works as a landscaper for other companies and owns his own landscaping business. His son Alejandro telling the media that he pays his taxes. He's a, quote, good, hardworking man. He's raised his family here, as in the United States, has established himself here. I mean, it's just disgusting. Alejandro also saying he has always worked hard to put food on the table for us and my mom. He was always careful, always did his taxes on time. He never caused any problems. He's known as a kind and helping person by everyone in our community. Now, here's what really gutted me, right? This just goes to show you the type of man that Narciso Barranco is. After being transferred to a detention facility in Los Angeles, Alejandro says that his father calls him from the facility and asked him to please, quote, finish the job I was doing when I got detained. The man was doing a landscaping job at an IHOP. And he asked his son, I'm getting emotional, to go and finish the job that he was doing when he got detained. That is a hardworking person. That is a hardworking person. Alejandro says, what infuriates me and my brothers are the agents hitting him when he was already down. Alejandro believes his father was racially profiled. They didn't ask him anything. They didn't ask him for his ID. They didn't ask him any questions. They racially profiled him. They just started chasing Narciso, and he ran because he was scared. Alejandro says he didn't know who was after him. Now, Border Patrol has confirmed it was their agents that were the ones who apprehended him. Alejandro further telling the media, quote, I'm honestly really hurt because I love this country a lot. I love my parents a lot. I gave up 4 years of my life to serve this country and to show that I am a patriot. I mean, what do you say to this, people? What do you say to this? Because there is nothing more noble or more patriotic than somebody who works hard, pays their taxes, raises their children to be good, upstanding citizens as well. Narciso doesn't commit any crimes. He's married. He's paying his taxes. His sons have sworn their lives to defend our country. But we don't have a space here in the United States for Narciso Barranco. We don't have space here for somebody like that. We don't have the decency or the integrity to say, Narciso, you are welcome to be here. You have sacrificed to be here. And what's wild is Narciso was already going through the process to be able to obtain, right, a certain type of immigration status to allow him to stay here in the United States. And what do we do? What do we do to repay Narciso for the sacrifices that he's made and for the sacrifices of his children and for the efforts he's made to do something in a legal process? What do? We beat him bloody. We handcuff him and we detain him and we don't let his family know where the hell he is. But you know what? Yeah, that makes us good fucking Americans, doesn't it? Now, What's even more outrageous is there are some of us that are good people that are, protesting in the streets. And we're also trying to take video about what is happening because we think it is outrageous and we think that it is illegal and we think it should be shown publicly because hell yeah, name them and shame them when we can. I'm going to share this other story with you because I'm sure you're aware of this one because this one also makes my blood boil. Here's another name I want you to remember. Job Garcia. Job Garcia is a United States citizen, 37 years old, and you may also know him because his situation, his arrest has also now gone viral. 37-year-old U.S. citizen Job Garcia tackled to the ground and arrested after filming federal agents at a Home Depot on Thursday. He was then held for more than an hour. Where? At a staging area at Dodgers Stadium. Oh. Sound familiar? Yeah, over the last couple of days, we've been hearing media reports that ICE and Border Patrol were trying to stage at Dodger Stadium and were purportedly and allegedly turned away, which maybe it's not allegedly, maybe they were turned away, but now the Dodgers want to give $1 million to help the community. Are you using Dodger Stadium to be able to stage ICE? Because if you are, America needs to know. So Job did a fantastic job. What did he do? He stood up for a fellow human being, but he actually had his cell phone on him and it was taking audio and video of his encounter where he got arrested violently by federal agents. But it was also really important because it was able to document some really important things. So let's talk about what happened to Job. Job actually has provided, according to the media, the following account. Federal agents said, "How many bodies did you guys grab today?" Now, this is the day that Job was arrested. One said, "Oh, we grabbed 31. The first agent says, "That was a good day." The two high-fived as Job sat on the asphalt under the sun. Job is one of several U.S. citizens that have actually been arrested by ICE and Homeland Security. And according to Homeland Security, they have allegedly interfered with agents' jobs, and that's the reason why they were arrested. But Job said something that was just so dead on, right, to the LA Times. He said, quote, "They call them bodies. They reduce them to bodies. My blood was boiling." I agree, Job. See, because when you dehumanize people, which is a Donald Trump GOP specialty, when you dehumanize a person and you make them into vermin or an animal, sound familiar? That's a very Nazi Germany thing to do. That's a Hitler thing to do. When you take an entire group of people and you reduce them to being less than human, subhuman, doesn't it become so much easier for them to be able to kill you, maim you, harm you, arrest you, detain you, eliminate you? So when you call them bodies, they're not people. They're not Narciso Barranco, right? They're not Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They don't have names. They're all the same damn face, right? Because they all fucking look the same. We heard Narciso's son say that he believed his father was racially profiled. Why? Because he was a dark-skinned, Hispanic-looking man doing a landscaping job. And that's why Alejandro thinks that his father was racially profiled. I think Alejandro is dead-ass right about that. But according to Job, he sees someone being bullied and being, confronted at the Home Depot. So what does Job do? He takes out his video and he starts to record what's happening, right? And then the next thing you know is a federal agent lunges and pushes him. So Job pushes his hand off, and that's when the agent grabbed his left arm, twisted behind his back, threw the phone. 3 other agents jumped in, and they said to Job, and I'm going to read this according to what the video says, by the way. This is not what Job says. This is what the video says. One of the agents says, "Get the fuck down, sir. Give me your fucking hand. You want it, you got it, sir. You fucking got it. You want to go to jail? Fine, you got it. You wanted it, you got it." Job says he was handcuffed so hard there was no circulation running to my fingers. Pinned down, Job said that he had difficulty breathing. Quote, "That moment, I thought I could probably die here." What does that remind you of, people? Reminds me of George Floyd? Reminds me of what happened to George Floyd? Job Garcia's phone was put back into his pocket. And while Job was put into a vehicle, you could hear And again, this is the video. This is not Job. You can hear in the video one agent saying twice, I've got one back here. I've got one back here. Job says, you got one what? You got one what? And then one of the agents speaks to Job in broken Spanish to wait here. And Job says, I fucking speak English, you fucking dumbass. Now, here's the thing that is the tell. Here's the thing that gives them all up as to why they are doing this, right? As in, like, they don't really care why they're doing it. They're just doing it to round up people to meet that quota. Job says that no agent asked if he was an American citizen and no one asked him for his identification. They assumed that I was undocumented. So if you're border and customs protection and you are trying, or you're ICE or Homeland Security, and you're trying to effectuate an arrest, because according to Donald Trump, it's only the violent criminals that we're deporting, right? It's only the bad hombres that we're deporting. It's only the bad ones that we're deporting here, right? But you're not going to ask for somebody's ID. You're not even going to ask them for their name. You're not even going to ask them if they're a United States citizen. Job kept on saying, look, get my wallet. I'm going to show you that I am a United States citizen, right? Okay. His hands are his handcuffed so tightly, his hands begin to swell. They switch him out, and Job says, I smeared my blood in their seat. They're going to remember me. And Job says he was on a ramp going into Dodger Stadium near Lot K. I mean, this is very specific, right? Job was taken out of the car, told to sit on the hot asphalt. Agents shuffled detainees into different vans and processed them for about an hour. A woman ran his background. Job says they were trying to build some sort of case. After they transported him, he was fingerprinted. They tried to interrogate him, and good for Job. Job declined, even though the agent said, we want to get your side of the story. One agent was overheard saying, Trump is really working us. Here's the other sad thing. While in custody, Job met a guy who said his wife is 6 months pregnant. He's a Mexican man. His wife said, don't go to work today. I have a bad feeling. He went to work. And we're going to talk about that in a hot second. He went to work and he was arrested. He met a guy named Adrian Martinez. Martinez is a 20-year-old Walmart worker who's also a U.S. citizen. He was arrested on Tuesday while he tried to stop the arrest of a man who was cleaning a shopping center in Pico Rivera. So both Job and Adrian are trying to stop bullying or this very violent confrontation of these older people or other people. And when they went to confront them, they put their hands on Job and Adrian both pushed the hands off of the agents. The United States Attorney Bill Esali posted a photo of Adrian Martinez on X. Of course it's X, right? It's got to be on X. It's got to be freaking Elon Musk's hot mess platform. The U.S. attorney said that Martinez was, quote, arrested for an allegation of punching a Border Patrol agent in the face after he attempted to impede their immigration enforcement operation. Martinez was charged in a criminal complaint with conspiracy to impede a federal officer, right? That charge, impeding a federal officer. The complaint itself makes no reference to a punch. Great. Okay. So he either punched him or he didn't, but of course, conveniently doesn't actually include that in the charging document. God forbid. And Martinez was released on a $5,000 bond. So here's the thing. Garcia was talking to Adrian, right, in custody, and this is what I absolutely love. This was Job. Job Garcia said this. You know, my hat off to you, Job Garcia, and I want to say this to all of you folks tuning in right now. Job said, quote, rioting is the language of the unheard, riffing on a quote from the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Rioting is the language of the unheard. Let me be explicitly clear. I am not here to advocate for rioting. I am not here to advocate for violent protesting. I am not here to advocate for the destruction of federal or state or local property. I'm not here to advocate for any of that. But I am here to advocate for your First Amendment right to be heard. I certainly am. So Alejandro Barranco, remember the son of Narciso Barranco, the landscaper? He says, quote, I love what I did. I love serving my country. I think my brothers do as well. And it just infuriates us that our country is doing this to our own people. What we fight for is justice, and we need a better pathway to fix all of this. Amen, Alejandro. Our immigration system is broken. It has been broken for years. I will not bullshit you. It's been broken under Democratic presidents as well. But this is not the solution. Rounding up people that are hardworking. Remember we talked about this a few days ago here at the Katie Phang News Channel? Why are they not going to the drug dens to arrest the undocumented there? Why are they not going to the, crime centers to be able to arrest the undocumented there? Why, interestingly, is everybody who is getting arrested is a hardworking person. They're working cleaning a shopping center. They're working landscaping at an IHOP. They're at a Home Depot waiting to get picked up to go work a job. A job that a lot of you MAGA wouldn't even bother to do because you think it would be beneath you. Why are they going to round up immigrants that are working in our fields in agriculture, working in our hotel and restaurant and other service industries? Again, doing the jobs that you claim, MAGA, that you would do? Spare me. Spare me your bullshit and lies. You wouldn't do that job, would you? You know what's really disgusting is Vance Bolter, that MAGA Trump-loving asshole that murdered a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband, Melissa Hortman and Mark Hortman, and also shot and killed their dog, and also shot and wounded another Minnesota lawmaker, him and his wife, right? Vance Bolter got better treatment being taken into custody than Narciso Barranco did. Narciso Barranco, Mexican immigrant working at IHOP in the parking lot, landscaping in the hot sun on a Saturday in California, on a weekend, on a Saturday working as a landscaper, he got his ass beaten by Border Patrol agents. Masked, armed men in civilian clothing approaching him, so he ran. And in that video, you see Narciso's weed whacker just strewn on the ground while the agents are beating him in his face. You also hear somebody shouting in Spanish, ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué la pega? Why? Why are you hitting him? I always say at the end of my Wait a Damn Minute videos, America deserves better than Trump. America deserves better than Trump, the GOP, Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, all those disgusting Border Patrol agents. I have no sympathy for them. I don't want to hear this shit. They're just doing their jobs. Isn't that what they said about the Nazis? They were just following orders. Just following orders. No, none of this is right. None of this is right. Be mad, be outraged, demand accountability. Because you know what? If it's not us, who's ever going to step up for them? Katie Phang here. The truth matters now more than ever. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching. How can you tell when Republicans are desperate? Oh, okay, listen, maybe that was just a layup question for all of you because it's every day. Every day Republicans are desperate. Well, when we are in the midst of a government shutdown, and today is October 2nd, 2025, day 2 of the government shutdown, courtesy of the feckless Republicans, we know Republicans are desperate when they are abusing and illegally using federal resources at federal agencies to be able to promote purely partisan messaging to blame the Democrats. I want to remind you again and again, there is a political power trifecta held by the GOP. The Oval Office, Senate, and the House. I've seen your comments. I kind of agree. It's the Supreme Court. I feel like they have their own shit problems. But the violations of the Hatch Act that we are seeing happening across the board at several federal agencies is so freaking egregious, we had to talk about it. So let's start here. According to the United States Office of Special Counsel, which is a Trump administration federal website, I'm going to read you what the Hatch Act is. The Hatch Act is a federal law passed in 1939. It limits certain political activities of federal employees, as well as some state, DC, and local government employees who work in connection with federally funded programs. The purpose of the Hatch Act is to ensure that federal programs are administered in a nonpartisan fashion to protect federal employees from political coercion in the workplace and to ensure that federal employees are advanced based on merit and not based on political affiliation. We all know that that's a lie, because in the Trump administration, your only opportunities for advancement are as if you are a cult loyalist of Der Fuhrer and if you kiss respective ass. Now, this shit doesn't go by unnoticed by some really intrepid people, including those with whom I am proud to work, Democracy Defenders Fund, former ambassador and ethics czar in the Obama administration, Norm Eisen, my good friend and colleague. They, on October 1st, just yesterday, sent a letter to Gene Dodaro, the Comptroller General at the Government Accountability Office, the GAO. Democracy Defenders Fund writes to this comptroller to say, you at GAO need to investigate whether employees of HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Office, including its secretary, Scott Turner, whether they violated specific federal laws when they posted purely partisan statements on the HUD website ahead of the current government shutdown. And as you can see, we're putting it up here for you to see, these are at least two examples of the shit that you see on the HUD website when you go there now. Now, like I just went there and this is the shit that you see. In addition, are there violations of these federal laws? It also violates things like basic information quality standards that were imposed by who? Russell Vought, the head of OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. So in addition to violating laws like the Hatch Act and other federal laws like the Anti-Deficiency Act, they're also violating Russell Vought's own guidelines and standards for information that's supposed to be included on government websites. Now, remember, the truly nefarious intent behind those guidelines was to eliminate DEI in woke language. But look, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Now, Democracy Defenders Fund highlights the fact that if you close the pop-up that comes up on the HUD website, for example, that each landing page at this federal agency's website, HUD.gov, contains this type of note. Quote, the radical left are going to shut down the government and inflict massive pain on the American people unless they get their $1.5 trillion wish list of demands. The Trump administration wants to keep the government open for the American people. Bullshit. And then now, again, today, this is what you see. Quote, the radical left in Congress shut down the government. HUD will use available resources to help Americans in need, end quote. Again, a lie and not true. What's interesting about Democracy Defenders Fund's letter to the comptroller at GAO, the Government Accountability Office, is that it actually cites to the Anti-Deficiency Act, which is the law that deals with government shutdowns. And it says very clear here that you cannot use appropriated funds for, quote, publicity or propaganda through annual appropriations bills. And the GAO itself has identified 3 different classes of communications for federal agencies that are prohibited under this publicity and propaganda limitation. 1 are covert communications, secretly. 2, self-aggrandizement, meaning boastful, publicity or propaganda about the agency. And 3, purely partisan activities. And opinions that have been drafted by GAO say that purely partisan communications are things that are, quote, completely devoid of any connection with official functions and completely political in nature, end quote. Seems like those HUD website posts are purely partisan. Now, the letter concludes, appropriately so, with the following. Visitors to HUD's website are seeking vital services, including help with homelessness, housing choice vouchers, and home ownership. These services should be provided on a nonpartisan basis, not obscured behind a digital wall of partisan demagoguery. Amen to that. Now, it's not just Democracy Defenders Fund. We also have a complaint that has been filed. This complaint has been filed because there's been a violation of the Hatch Act. Now, this is from Public Citizen, another fantastic coalition partner of Democracy Defenders, and they have filed this because you actually have to file a complaint to be able to initiate the Hatch Act violation, and it's being done against Scott Turner, who's the Secretary of HUD, and the allegations are as follows. He has engaged in political activity while on duty in any room or building that's occupied in the discharge of his official duties, while wearing a uniform or official insignia, or while using a vehicle owned or leased by the U.S. government. Now listen, that tracks the language of 5 U.S. Code 7324, political activities on duty, the prohibition of that. But they're basically saying he's violated the Hatch Act. That he is responsible for the highly partisan postings that you and I just walked through on the HUD website, and that as a result, they violated the Hatch Act. So again, that's at least 2 formal complaints that have been brought demanding investigations and insight into what has been happening at HUD. But wait, there's more. You get the Ginsu knives as well. It's not just HUD. So HUD is a forward-facing agency website that we've been catching them violating the law, right? The Republicans, again, so desperate to blame the Democrats, even though I know they have a mirror and they can see that they themselves are responsible for this government shutdown. But NPR is reporting this, which I thought was egregiously horrible and was worthy of your attention. Wednesday morning, the very first day of the government shutdown, what did the Trump administration do? Employees at the Small Business Administration were given, quote, suggested language. And you and I both know that nothing is just, quote, suggested in this administration. The suggested language included for their out of office automatic replies. Now, right, the government shut down, so employees are not going to be working, not all of them, and so they're going to have out of office automatic replies. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The suggested language mirrored the partisan accusations made by OMB before the government shut down. In an email blast to the entire agency at the Small Business Administration, that email suggested that employees write the following, quote, I am out of office for the foreseeable future because Senate Democrats voted to block a clean federal funding bill, H.R. 5371, leading to a government shutdown. And as soon as the shutdown is over, we are prepared to immediately return to the record-breaking services we are providing under the leadership of the Trump administration, end quote. Are you fucking kidding me? Let me be clear. You don't think those employees at the SBA feel threatened and coerced if they don't use that, quote, suggested language, that something might happen to them while they are out on the shutdown as they've been furloughed? Because as we know, and as I've covered here at the Katie Phang News channel, we know Russell Vogt and Trump is using this government shutdown as cover to be able to do illegal reductions in force during the pendency of the shutdown. So what are you going to do if you're a government employee in the SBA? You're going to have to fall into line, right? Or fear that you're going to lose your job. There's other crazy language that's also been included here. And I'm going to put it up so you can look at it right now. But it sits there and it touts President Trump being in opposition of the government shutdown, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's all partisan hackery, but it's offensive that these government employees are feeling obligated and forced to have to do this. It's not just the SBA. Because these emails came on Tuesday from the White House Office of Management and Budget as well. And these messages were received by staff at the Departments of the Interior, Commerce, Labor, State, Treasury, Justice, Agriculture, and Health and Human Services, the Social Security Administration, the GSA, the General Services Administration, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Office of Personnel Management, and the National Labor Relations Board. I mean, I could keep going. Those were just the screenshots that were shared with NPR to be able to highlight the partisan demagoguery and hackery that is going on because Republicans are so fucking desperate to blame somebody else other than themselves. For example, at the Department of Veterans Affairs, the language that they're supposed to be using is this, quote, radical liberals in Congress are to blame for services not being available during a shutdown. In fact, the press secretary for the VA said that radical liberals in Congress are trying to shut down the government to achieve their crazy fantasy of open borders, transgender for everybody, and men competing in women's sports. If they succeed, they will stop critical veterans care and assistance programs. But that, my friends, is a bald-faced fucking lie. Why? Because healthcare for veterans will not be impacted by this government shutdown, and the contingency plan for the Department of Veterans Affairs says that 97% of its employees will not be furloughed. If you'll recall, a few months ago, they actually earmarked and carved out funds, and that's why the VA is not going to be impacted by this. But the truth, who bothers with the truth in this administration, right? Compare and contrast, please. In 2013, when there was a shutdown, then President Barack Obama penned a letter to federal employees that thanked them for their service and chided Congress, quote, that failed to meet its responsibility to approve spending plans without mentioning Republicans specifically. Take note, convicted felon Trump, you're still not worthy to even walk behind somebody like President Barack Obama. I know it kills you. I know it kills you, McCankles Trump, as my good friend Jen says, right? Taco McCankles Trump. You can't even lick the bottom of the shoes of Barack Obama. That's how you deal with a shutdown. I want to express my concern for the government employees that are being impacted by this shutdown. I'm going to say it again. We have to stand in solidarity with them. We have to be prepared to help them in our communities and people that we know. We have to let them know that we are standing in solidarity with them. We know it's a scary time. We don't know how long this shutdown's going to be. I am predicting this is going to be longer than the 35-dayer that happened at the end of 2018. During the Trump administration. We need to be able to steel ourselves for what is to come. It's going to impact a lot of us. We may not be federal employees that are furloughed and impacted by this, but we are going to feel it as Americans, and we have to understand what's at stake. Democrats are not seeking to give free health care to, quote, illegal immigrants. That is a lie. If you hear somebody saying it, nip it in the bud, because it's a lie. And if you need to, share this video so people can see. It is disgusting how partisan things have become under the Trump administration. And we're not going to turn a blind eye to it. We're going to file the complaints. We're going to sue. We're going to take action because that's the thing to do. But in the meantime, Americans are impacted. Americans have lost their health insurance, Medicare and Medicaid. WIC is about to expire in a week. I mean, there are millions of people across the country that are impacted by what? The big bullshit bill. Do not let people think that this government shutdown is singularly going to be responsible for economic and fiscal harms to Americans. That big bullshit bill that passed on the watch of this existing Congress is the reason why we're doing this right now. Basic health care. It's just a decent fucking thing to do for Americans. We're not asking for the moon here, people. We're not. Be mad, be outraged, demand accountability. Go to nokings.org. Sign up for a local protest in your home on October 18th. See you later. Katie Phang here. We launched the Katie Phang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together. California Congresswoman Sydney Kamlager-Dove is taking the fight where it needs to be. For example, she just conducted a shadow hearing this week in California, demanding answers as to what is happening to our immigrants that are being disappeared off of American streets. She's also leading the charge to demand answers from Kash Patel, FBI director, who is using a $60 million private jet to go to a boondoggle ranch and have date nights with his girlfriend. Sydney Kamlager-Dove is also demanding that affordability be a part of the agenda that is met in D.C., explaining that Republicans, both in the House and in the Senate, have zero plans to fix the healthcare crisis in our country. She's the kind of fighter that we need in D.C. Take a listen to the work she's doing. And joining me now is one of the true fighters in D.C., Congresswoman Sydney Kamlager-Dove of the great state of California. Congresswoman, it's always so good to see you. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? It's always good to be here with you.
Well, look, we are coming to the end of a fairly chaotic 2025, courtesy mainly of the Trump regime 2.0. One of the things that we're looking forward to happening next week, although I'm not holding my breath, is this purported vote on healthcare on December 11th. That was a part of the deal to end the government shutdown, to allow the Democrats to craft the language of what would be teed up for a vote. But what are you hearing in the House in terms of any kind of proposals from the Republicans on healthcare?
So there is pandemonium over
Typical.
in the House, yes, because Republicans are mad at each other, and they are taking it all out on Speaker Johnson. So he might need additional security. You know, what we are hearing is that no one should be holding their breath about these votes. You know, Senator Thune did promise to hold votes, but he didn't promise that he would have the votes. He also didn't promise that he would have a real proposal. So we haven't seen anything. You know, there have been bipartisan discussions on the House side. We have a couple of members, R's and D's, who are going to reveal a plan, but no one is expecting this to be solved. And in fact, Speaker Johnson has not committed to picking up and having votes on any bill that comes through from the Senate side. So already Thune is talking about, will there be another government shutdown?
I mean, this was part of the reason why I said, and I was not trying to be casual about it, because I was definitely having empathy and sympathy for the people affected by this government shutdown. But I was pissed when there was, I think, capitulation. And I understand these are your colleagues in the Senate. But I mean, I was pretty mad about this, because without it being codified, written in, being a requirement to have this vote, and knowing that we just kicked the can down the road to the end of January of 2026, that we were going to have to do this all over again, I can reasonably anticipate the Republicans shrugging their shoulders and saying, we're going to go for the holidays. We got to deal this in January. We'll just deal with it in January.
Of course. And we have a president now saying that affordability is a Democratic hoax, and we do not have an affordability issue in this country. When you have Republicans who refuse to vote on healthcare, who don't have a plan about lowering healthcare costs, and who don't even want to commit to voting on it, and everyone acknowledging that healthcare costs are too damn high, just like cost of living is too damn high. So if you don't have any leverage over the Republicans, it doesn't make any sense to me why you would yield to them without getting something in writing about what you are going to gain. Yes, we won the messaging war, but at the end of the day, people still have bills they have to pay, and we have to address the healthcare crisis to lower those bills.
Yeah, and look, the last I heard, the Democrats were thinking about maybe trying to obtain a clean 3-year extension on the Obamacare tax subsidies that are due to expire TikTok in just about, 20-something days. But, you know, there's some weird machinations, as again is typical, going on vis-a-vis the White House. And I'm also reading that there's really no clear guidance that's being provided. Why? Because there's never a plan with the administration. It's always the concepts of a plan, but never a healthcare plan. And I'm really worried, because a lot of Americans are entering this holiday season with no joy, because they know there's some serious tough questions they're going to have to ask themselves. Do I put food on the table, or do I have health insurance? I hope nobody gets sick.
There's a lot of uncertainty. People are scared. That's why they weren't rushing to the stores after Thanksgiving for Black Friday, because they don't know what their paychecks are going to look like through December and January when these premiums kick in. Democrats have a discharge petition. All of us have signed it, asking for a 3-year extension on the Obamacare subsidies. And hey, look, I get it. We have to do more than just make sure that we're putting more money in the pockets of insurance companies. We have to address the broken healthcare system in its totality. But at the very least, can we do this while we try to gain the House back and actually have real discussions about how to fix it? All of the Democrats have signed it. We don't have any Republicans to sign it. So where are these folks when they want to use the discharge petition for so many of their other issues? And they talk about how they support healthcare. Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about how she supports healthcare, but her ass needs to be signing that discharge petition so that we can actually have a vote.
Leopard, spots, that whole thing. Trust me. I know. Let's stay on the topic of money, because affordability is clearly something that is relevant regardless of your party affiliation, even if the Republicans don't want to be doing the work to do it. Let's talk about Kash Patel. Let's talk about the way that he's been spending money. There is a spectacular letter that you co-signed with Jamie Raskin. It was sent to Kash Patel, the director of the FBI. It was sent on December 1st, and it calls him out for his use of a $60 million private jet to go to wrestling matches. Let's see the girlfriend. And I mean, I thought this was just, because I use the word boondoggle all the time. all the time in common Katie Phang parlance. But it really was the name of a ranch, the Boondoggle Ranch, a scenic hunting resort as the ideal place to waste money or time on unnecessary or questionable projects. I mean, that's legit the
That's
crazy
the
name.
definition of Cash Patel.
Well, as he searches, maybe he'll take the private jet to Valhalla. But at this point, this man is wasting taxpayer dollars while people are struggling to figure out if they're going to put food on the table or have health insurance. What is going on with this man in the use of this private jet?
I don't know what is going on with crazy cash. He needs to stop using whatever. If it's steroids, I don't know what it is, he should stop. What I will say is, while we had a government shutdown, we had federal workers, including federal workers in the FBI, who were working to keep this country and citizens safe, and they were not getting paid. Meanwhile, the director of the FBI has Secret Service protecting his girlfriend, is getting his booty calls answered with the lady, and they are using this FBI jet going around the country, luxury travel on dates. So I don't have a problem with you trying to work your mojo and get your groove on, just not on taxpayer dollars. And if you're going to use the jet with the girl, you have to pay us back, reimburse the American people, because my taxpayer dollars are not going to fund your late night date nights. Okay. And he has not shown us any receipts. I mean, real receipts,
like literal receipts
of how he has reimbursed the taxpayers. So that's one. And then he's got, don't cry for me, Cash Patel. He's on the, television talking about, I have a right to have a personal life. Yes, you do, just not on our dime. And hey, here's the other thing. Why are they moving money, right? They are appropriating dollars from the FBI, from the DOJ, working on addressing prostitution, human trafficking, very similar to what we are talking about when we're talking about the Epstein files, so that he can take the luxury jet with his girlfriend, so that Kristi Noem can have a $220 million photo shoot on the horses. I mean, this is all on taxpayer dollars when you have a president who refuses to pay SNAP benefits to people who are eligible for them and need them. So you will not feed the hungry, but you'll let Cash Patel use my money instead of his miles to go on a date.
Well, and let me be clear, because I know some people are losing their minds over this, and including me. Apparently, the FBI director is allowed to use the private jet. So I want to make sure we're clear here, right? So nobody accuses us of not giving the facts. FBI directors are required by executive branch policy to use government aircraft for air travel, whether official or personal, because I mean, I don't know if Cash Patel actually knows how to do his job, but it's to maintain access to secure communications and to move quickly in the event of an emergency. I don't think that he moves quickly when he needs to have an FBI jacket that says FBI on it and he has to take one from a female agent. But he's required to reimburse the government at coach fare rates for himself, family, and friends. I mean, all of it has to be reimbursed. And so the bottom line is, y'all are asking, show us literally the receipts for the reimbursements that you've been giving for using this private jet.
That's all I'm saying. And like I said, if you want to take your girl on a date, you want to show her a good time, hey, great. Now, should she be on the jet with you? I do have some questions about that. But at the very least, if you're going to do that, reimburse. So let me tell you, as a member of Congress, when I go on trips and I take my husband, I have to reimburse either the entity that is helping me travel on company business, or I'm paying for it myself. The taxpayers are not paying for me to take my husband on a date. So if they're not doing it for me, then we should not be doing it for Cash Patel. That is what we are saying. And like I said, he has not shown up. He has not provided any receipts. So when they talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, here's a picture of Cash Patel. When you're talking about corruption, there's a picture of Cash Patel. I was in a judiciary hearing just yesterday, Katie, and I couldn't believe it. They were having a conversation about balancing the budget and the debt of the government. And I was like, oh my God, how are you talking about debt when you have the destruction of the East Wing, when you have this creation of this ballroom that nobody is going to use, when you have Cash Patel and his $62 million dates, when you have Kristi Noem and her $230 million photo shoot, when you have the military parade. I mean, it can go on and on about the waste, fraud, and abuse, the corruption in the misappropriation of taxpayer dollars for the benefit of these people to live the high life.
I have a theory it's really not going to be the ballroom, that they're creating a memory care facility for Donald Trump for his dementia and senility. So one thing that you are doing, because you always do, is you work. And what I've loved the Democrats doing as they've been working are these shadow hearings. And I don't think you guys get enough credit for this, because I do think that people need to know about the work y'all are doing. You recently did one for House Oversight and Government Reform. It was a shadow hearing that was done in California, I believe, right? It was in California. And I'm going to play a little bit of sound because I think it's really important. But the person who is answering questions, the witness, is the president and CEO of the Immigrant Defenders Law Center. This was at a shadow hearing that was done about, and I can't believe we're having this conversation in the United States in 2025 about people that have just been disappeared. They are literally disappeared off the streets. And DHS, ICE, CBP, whomever, they have zero accountability and accounting for where these people have gone. And specifically, we're speaking about a gentleman by the name of Vicente Ventura Aguilar. And we're going to play a little bit of sound, and I'm going to have a question or a few for you after we listen to it. Take a listen.
Do we have any data on how many of our community members, friends, family members, loved ones have been disappeared under this government?
We do not, because the information that we have, the data we are receiving from the Department of Homeland Security is inaccurate. And we know that specifically because of the case of someone like Vicente Ventura Aguilar. Where is he now? They claim that he was never in their custody, but they have his photo. They have his name. They could use their biometrics data to find him and tell us where he is, but they refuse to do so. How many other Vicentes are there? How many other people are missing? It's the lack of due process that leads to the chaos that results in people going missing like Vicente, and we demand answers for his case.
I mean, 44-year-old Mexican man entered the United States in 2008. You know, and the bone I don't have to pick is if you're not here legally, okay, and there's not a pathway being afforded to you by the government, which should be afforded to you, you know, where is this poor man? His family can't account for where he is. You've written letters. You've got no answers. And for such a fancy government that allegedly has all this money earmarked from the big bullshit bill to be able to run this immigration enforcement program, right? How is it possible you cannot explain the whereabouts of this man?
The cruelty is the point with this administration, and the complete disregard for humanity is on the unfortunate exclamation point. Vicente was here. He's been here for over 17 years. He is not a criminal. On October 7th, 8 weeks ago, he was detained. He was being transported to Mexico. They'd stopped for a food break. He fell ill. They went to seek medical emergency, and he has disappeared off the face of this fucking planet. We have eyewitnesses that saw him on the bus. We have eyewitnesses that saw him fall ill. And we have facial recognition technology. We have reports that come from hospitals that can at least show us where he might have gone. And we have called CBP, we have called ICE, we have talked to Homeland Security, we have called the Mexican consulate, we have called local law enforcement, we have reached out to hospitals, we have even called the morgues, Katie, and no one knows where he is. They are saying that he never existed, and I don't believe that. And I have said repeatedly, if we can find Osama bin Laden, then we can find Vicente Aguilar. But this story is straight out of a Pinochet administration.
That's what I'm saying.
And this is not the kind of stories that we should be, the kind of story that we should be talking about in 2025 in this United States of America. So if you have him, just reveal him, because the family deserves answers and some closure. And if it can happen to one person, it can happen to anyone. And the fact that Kristi Noem refuses to answer the questions shows to me that there is a cover-up happening. And at some point, they all must be held to account. And then somebody has to go before an extrajudicial convening to talk about violations against humanity. These are human rights violations happening right here in this country.
What's outrageous to me is the footage. There's actually video
Yes.
of Vicente smiling and dancing with friends before immigration authorities swarm and they're gone. And maybe there is no video of them literally taking Vicente into custody, but it doesn't take a brain to figure out if the guy is there and then he's gone and the people he was with are gone, that they were taken into custody, all of them collectively. And I appreciate how you underscore the reality, which is it's about Vicente, but it's not just about Vicente. It's about him and helping his family figure out where he is. But it's about how many others, because if they're so casual
And
about people and cavalier, then it could be any of us, right? It could
Yes.
be literally any of us.
And the fact is that there's always camera surveillance happening between Ring cameras, between phones, between our ability to access satellite visuals. We have the capabilities to find him. People do wear body cameras, even if they turn it off. Has everyone turned it off? Are you telling everyone to turn it off? Then that means that there's something coordinated and very pernicious happening. But we have the ability to tap in with drones, with all of the surveillance that we have. We can't find Vicente. I don't believe that. So why are you lying? What are you covering up? What have you done with him? And who else are you doing this to?
Well, what's kind of crazy, though, is the added wrinkle of if he fell ill, which there are witnesses to attest, literally bleeding from falling down, he doesn't get medical treatment. Is he in a medical? Did anybody at a hospital see him? I mean, did they treat him? Do they not keep records for treatment? I mean, the lie literally disappeared, literally has disappeared.
I'm glad you've mentioned that, because what we've also learned is that when law enforcement, when ICE agents do take people to hospitals, they take them under false names so that lawyers cannot access them, so that their family members can't find them. We have verifiable documentation that this has happened in the past. So the question is, did this also happen to Vicente? And why are they doing that? You know, like, are the people so beaten up and bruised? Have they been assaulted? Like, what's going on? But we certainly have asked using Vicente's name, but we don't have any false names that we can conjure up to find out if that name is in the record. But we called even the morgues. We called all the hospitals. We called all the medical facilities. We called all the morgues in the area, and no one has a record of him. Now, that's a horror movie.
That is a level of deception that requires coordination, but also is an example of consciousness of guilt. Because if you're not doing anything wrong in the way that you are treating and processing an individual, then you have nothing to hide about the whereabouts, the condition, and the status of that particular individual. But of course, as we know, this administration specializes in deceit. And, you know, there was a big hullaboo over the Oversight Immigration Enforcement Dashboard that was created by House Oversight. Congressman Garcia, a colleague of yours from California, announcing this new tool that was launched by Oversight that allows to document verified incidents of possible misconduct and abuse during federal immigration enforcement operations under the Trump administration. It's the very least that we can be doing, because Vicente is just one example of the level of just, as you use the adjective, pernicious conduct of this administration under this guise of immigration enforcement.
The portal is so important, Katie, and I'm glad you mentioned it. It is a portal that anyone can access, and this is our opportunity to have these kinds of incidents documented and archived. People need to feel safe. They need to feel safe knowing that they can type in their experiences or the experience of a friend, family, loved one, of the abuses, of what happened, because we do have to have documentation of this so that we can hold the right folks accountable and conduct the oversight necessary when we have the gavels. And it's so important For members of the immigrant community to know about this, members of the LGBTQ community, we know that pregnant women are being mishandled and assaulted when they're detained. Obviously, members of our trans community are being assaulted, and then folks across the immigrant spectrum, and then also U.S. citizens, folks across the, immigrant status spectrum are being assaulted and terrorized and abused. And the portal allows you to share your experience, to document it so that Democrats have it. And we can then go through the process of calling these stories up and then holding the right folks accountable. And what we have said and what Democrats have said is that folks who work for the federal government, your oath is to the Constitution, not to the thugs who are in the cabinet. And you need to obey the law. If you don't, you too will be held accountable.
I have been on record saying now that I am incredibly circumspect about the level of support I'm providing specific candidates that are running for office. And one of the things that I am requiring for it's just me personally, to be able to provide that support is an affirmation that a candidate will seek accountability hearings. It is the least that we can do for people whose civil rights and human rights have been violated, but it's the goal. It's to get the gavel back, to have this level of transparency and accountability, which we haven't had. And I feel like that's an important thing that people need to stand for if they're going to run for office, because I do think it's one way of really setting the record straight and making sure that we are all on the right side of history for this.
We have to reset our moral compass. There is no way we can talk about how we're concerned about China, how we're concerned about Russia, when we are actually authorizing illegal extrajudicial executions and killings off the coast of Venezuela.
True. 100%.
There's no reason why we should be talking about what is happening in India or Pakistan or Bangladesh when we are disappearing people here off of Long Beach Boulevard in California. And if you are not willing to hold people accountable and walk through the fire and fight on behalf of the country and the Constitution and your constituents, then I'm just telling you, y'all don't need to be running for no office. You don't need to be asking for no money, because this right here is a battle for the conscience of this country and the protection of our democracy and Constitution. We are not in kindergarten right now.
And thus concludes the sermon of Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager. Woo! Another spicy SKD interview with Katie Phang. Listen, all kidding aside, you really are a fighter. And it's funny because I just had this conversation the other day, or maybe just today. God, it's all blurring together. But I was saying, you know what? We're not fighting to fight. We're fighting because that's what people deserve and that's what people need. It's not trying to meet the moment with, because I've seen some people that are like, why are we lowering ourselves or debate? I'm like, I ain't debasing myself. I'm lifting myself to meet the moment of where it needs to be. There is a level of urgency about which we cannot be casual. We cannot be just nonchalant about what is happening right now. And you, my friend, are somebody who really understands that mission. And I am grateful as an American and as somebody who cares about where we're heading. So thank you, Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager Dove, always for your advocacy and for your friendship and for being such a fighter. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Well, you are the most amazing queen. So I just support you always. KP, the illustrious.
Katie Phang here. We launched the Katie Phang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.